here. And I'm just curious on your take on US regulations and how difficult it is to run a blockchain company versus some of the other places like Singapore and Malta. Do you think we have a disadvantage? What's your take on that?
I just answered this question once, but like 15 minutes ago, so I don't want to answer it differently. But what I will say is, one of the reasons that the US is as dominant as it was because it allowed the internet to be free. Like, it allowed people to communicate frictionlessly with this new protocol. And that led to just faster development of everything. And this is another situation where all the governments are identifying that this could be another internet moment. Why put more friction in it if this helps us be more dominant? And I think up to this point, the SEC has actually been very, very thoughtful about it. I do have two trains of thought, but the main one is that they're being thoughtful and that it would be ridiculous to completely create friction, because you will lose smart people to countries that are more flexible. Like, that's basically what's happening. Like, that's happening. Like, people who are giving more certainty around the rules are gaining the smartest in the blockchain space. And that's wild. Like, citizens are so liquid, like, you can move to new countries so easily now that just these simple rules are completely making people move. And that's really exciting. I mean, that's like crazy cool. So if the US decides to somehow be like a barrier for entry into the blockchain universe, like, I know 100 companies minimum that will move like that, and they're all really, like, you guys are all the smartest people you know, probably. Like, every time, the thing that it got me so excited, it wasn't the concept of the open financial system, it wasn't the fact, it wasn't like Coinbase, it wasn't Bitcoin, it was like, every time I met someone in Bitcoin, in the space, they were the smartest person I'd ever met. Like, that was what happened. They were the most dynamic person I ever met. It was, sometimes I felt like I was meeting aliens, but like, they were always like energetic, passionate people. And like, that's what contrarian spaces are. Like, you have these smart groups of people working in their basements, like, figuring out how to change the world, and at some point they do. And they need to convince other people about it, obviously. We can't change the world by ourselves. But and so like that, yeah, there. I'm gonna leave it there. Like, I do have, my other line of thinking is, like, nothing can stop it. Hard stop. Like, I can't see anything stopping it. Like, I've been told, what if the US government doesn't want a second currency working in their jurisdiction? And I'm like, okay, good luck. Like, good luck, stop it. Like, I don't know what would get it to stop at this point. It's very global. There's 30 million accounts now. The mining system is very complex. It's actually pushing the boundaries of what GPUs and ASICs can actually do. So the best technology in the world is running on miners. So that's something to think about. The largest supercomputer in the world is this network of GPUs and ASICs that are all competing for electricity and algorithms. Like, it's pushing the limits. That it's not the reverse. It's not like videos and video games that are driving it anymore. It's like this crazy group of people who actually want to change finance. Which you're not laughing, but like, it doesn't sound like the sexiest thing ever, and suddenly it's sexy. But like, the best technology is in finance now. That's wild. Cool. Okay, that's my answer.
Thank you, Adam.
Good luck, US.
Quick side note, as I was hurrying out to the restroom, I forgot to mention that we are having a contest, and actually I would like to invite anybody else that has tokens as a company that'd like to participate. Please let us know. But Storm will be handing out 6,000 free Storm tokens to the best tweeter. So if you have your favorite quote said
You guys
by...
can all give up. I'm taking all of it. But he basically what we're creating is rapid prototyping of governments. Like we're able to rapidly prototype. You pre-create a constitution, and then forks are like the amendments of that constitution, and you pick the ones that have mass. They call it consensus in the crypto world, but like mass consensus. And like we get to rapidly prototype that like all day, every day. Like you don't need to start a nation. You don't need geographic boundaries. You don't need all of these things. You could just like, hey, I think there's a better way to do this. Get like a small group of people who sort of believe it, and then start to iterate. That's pretty fascinating. Like I think that's a really exciting thing. So governance is a huge use case. We backed Aragon, which is based on governance of DAOs. So I would say those are good. Okay, rather than give you specific things, like I would just rather you think in terms of digital scarcity, global nature, really those, but governance also. But governance is like in it, like that's it. That's all. Like all of this is about governance. Like Bitcoin made it the miners the powerful people. Like Ethereum's trying to make the stakeholders the powerful people. Tezos is trying to make it parse the stakeholder from the value. Every single one of these just has a different system for voting. Like that's it. And that's what everyone's getting excited about. People are excited about government and finance. That's sexy.
So the space can be really crazy. A lot of weird stories floating around with companies and founders. What's the craziest story that you've heard? You don't have to name specific names. Yeah, definitely can.
Okay, how would you define crazy?
Like I've heard companies just taking funds from crowd sales, investing in real estate, and running away, and going to Canada or some Asian country, or I don't know, some really weird stories. A lot of them seem to be coming from San Francisco too. So.
Yeah, what are we smoking over there? Yeah, craziest story. Yeah, you sent me this question. I was thinking about it. I was trying to think of like what crazy is to me. I mean, to me, like crazy is like people believe. That's crazy to me. That's the craziest thing that's happened in the last 2 years. Like this next generation of crypto person is really believing that this could be the future of the way that the world works. That's really exciting. But in terms of like the poor judgment of use of funds goes, I wish people were more creative. Like when they're stealing. Like go like buy a rocket. Do something like insane. You're gonna get caught. Don't do this. Don't steal. That's the rule. That's like the one rule of finance. Don't screw people over. Don't steal. Those are the rules. I wish people were just financing awesome ideas and imagination-related things, which is what I'm passionate about. I don't hear about as much as you'd think. And maybe it's because I'm in Silicon Valley, so like the craziest things happen right around me, and I'm in a basement. But I think those are the loudest situations, and I think they're the fewest. So I'm going to take this the other way, and I'm going to say people are good.
I like it. There's hope in humanity, which is good. So I guess the last question before we open it to Q&A. So your dad, Tim, predicted Bitcoin is going to be $250,000 by 2022. What is your prediction and why?
Okay, I want to caveat this with prediction for a price I think is less useful than using it productively, personally. but it gives marketing to the ecosystem, and thus I am a victim of excitement if the price does go to $250,000. So the way I take this is, I think there will be more. So this isn't, I don't price it, but it does mean the market would be big. I think there will be more digital currency in 10 years than like nation-based currency. Which I think like it's a good prediction, and I think it's true. If you think of economics of scale, like internet adoption, all of those things. First off, what crypto has that the internet doesn't have is internet. Like the internet didn't have the internet. We have the internet. We can communicate with everyone, and I can like spread the word really, really fast. I tweet and like blows my mind, like a bunch of phones ping. Like that's crazy. Like it seems like a gimmick almost, but like it's insanely valuable. I write things like, hey, is any startup looking at aquatic robots like to start in that space? And like people respond. Like people are like, they tag someone and they're like, you should look at this. And I'm like, it's awesome. Twitter makes venture capital very, very lazy. There, quote. Which is why we're all on it. but it's. I'm forgetting what the question was completely, but I was on a path there. What was the question?
What's the price prediction for?
Oh yeah, that's my price prediction. It's a prediction. It's not a price prediction. It's I believe that the lines will cross, and people. It's sort of like people don't believe and then they do, and that's what's going to happen. It grows in these shelves. Like the next one's going to be twice as big as the last one. It's just like you don't know when it's going to happen. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen. I think the next one happens with real product and value. So I think it's good that you're all building stuff. But it might be a winter for like 2 years. Like I don't know. I don't know how it's going to shake down. But I do know that in the next 10 years, value will be built. There will be a product that everyone uses, like Facebook, but for crypto. And it will be like analogous to just saying, hey, I'm going to tweet this. Like you will be using crypto in the same way. And that's going to be the craziest part, where you don't say crypto, you don't say blockchain. Like, when those words don't exist anymore, we win. Especially if this room wins. Like, we as humans win also. Humans win. But like, this room wins pretty big because you're all working on crypto-related projects. So build that one. Build the one that everyone uses. And I don't know if either of them you're going to like. The first one is, just stop hacking institutions. The second one's more useful. If you truly do want to articulate, first off, the reason institutions that want metrics is they need something that sounds familiar to what they're used to. So what metrics do is create sort of trust in ecosystem, but it also shows progress, shows value, and so you need to relate it back and speak in their language. Like I think a big part of what my job is less investing as it is translating. Like what I'm doing is translating the culture and people of this technology. They speak one language and then investors speak another language. And so you have to translate. And what I would argue, these specific institutions, my guess, would be is they speak the language of gold. Gold! 3 laughs, that was good enough. I feel better about it. But gold is an enormous industry, and it's actually slowing because a lot of people are starting to adopt Bitcoin as a belief system because they're betting on the millennial, and the millennial doesn't care about gold. And so I would speak the metrics of gold and say at its peak it was a $7 trillion a day, and I don't know what the actual numbers of gold are, but like speak in terms of minerals and metals and that sort of thing, and say like that's what we're doing. We're storing value in different new digital ways, and like these are the ways in which it's going. Other than that, like just say it's awesome. My biggest LP I just met up with, and I backed two Jetpack companies, and they said, yeah, you're great, Adam, but what is the business of a jetpack? And I gave him a very articulate response. I did. It was really good, I thought about it a lot. I said, well, when we were transitioning from the horse and carriage to the car, we had to educate the market on which is faster and which is more consistent. So we had horse-car races. And then we had just car races because cars were going faster and you want to show which technology was better. We're at that level with jetpacks. We have to race a car and a jetpack. And then I said, it's just cool. So it's cool. Yeah, just sit. Yeah. Sit, and they're gonna feel like they're missing out at some point. You might as well just be like, hey, you're trying, this is what I'm seeing, okay? I'm seeing private equity, venture, whatever, all these really, really smart investors, like really smart investors, start to talk amongst themselves, okay? They're starting to talk amongst, and they're trying to create consensus amongst themselves to choose to jump in and invest, okay? So like, which is like ridiculous in some ways, because don't you want to be first of your friend group? Like, because then the value goes up. So that's what you say. Get them to be like, be the first of your friend group to own some, and then get all your friends to buy. That could work too. I don't know. I'm giving you a bunch of ideas. I don't know if any will work, but moral of the story is jetpacks are cool.
I have a question. Thank you both for being here. It's awesome. So from the venture standpoint, and kind of a slight pivot on the question that often gets asked about regulation and going foreign, I'm hoping that you can talk a little bit about the impact that has on venture from a competition standpoint. I know a lot of people in this room go foreign for investment purposes because, frankly, there's just additional opportunity there. And to go back to what you were talking about with this whole friend group thing, is like, hey, we don't have time to wait for this friend group to understand. So hoping you can kind of talk about the foreign investment versus local, and then how that impacts you as an investor.
There's sort of like three questions. Because the first one is, how do I raise money? Right? Like, in this new world.
Like, let's just assume, like, hey, we're not going to wait for the local. And then how does that impact you?
Yeah, so, I do think the first piece is sort of like, there are people locally who will invest. So the rule of thumb that I learned, by the way, I had a horrible time raising my first 3 funds. Like, I've spoken to 350 investors. Like, if you haven't spoken to 150 investors, I just don't even want to talk to you. Like, I want to talk to you, like, pitch me, like, that's fine. I'm saying, like, if you're complaining about it, okay, like, and you haven't talked to 150 investors, like, get out of my room and stop complaining. Because it's brutal, but, like, you haven't talked to as many as me. And but the rule of thumb, and I sat down after, I'm going to get to the full question because you want it to be crypto focused, but I'm going to give it a full run. I sat down with my grandfather, bringing him back up because it's worth it. He was a great venture capitalist. He still is, but he does it in the social context now. And I was sitting down with him, and I was saying, oh man, it's been a grind. I was sitting down with him at breakfast at a place called Bucks. He had pancakes, I had pancakes. Actually, he didn't have pancakes. He always goes like this soft-boiled eggs. He does soft-boiled eggs, 3 minutes. He goes 3 minutes, 3 minutes soft-boiled egg. Every time he goes in, they know him, they know his order. And I sat down and I was like, God, it's been a grind. Like, I've spoken with, he goes, how many investors have you spoken to? I said 350. And he goes, maybe you're doing it wrong. And like, there's so much wisdom in that statement where I was like, maybe I am. And so I started thinking, and someone else told me this. He said, people only invest or donate money when it's something they care about, referred by someone they trust. And so you need to figure out why you are at the overlap of those two things. So that's my first thing, is like this fundraising situation, it's not necessarily a geographical problem or it's more of a, you need to find the right people who care at this moment. And time matters, like you need to hit them at the right time. Okay, second piece of this question. How is the venture industry getting, pardon my French, effed by the crypto space? Hard, and we don't even realize it. The democratization of fundraising, it already happened. Like, it's already happening. I didn't participate in Storm, yet Storm still raised from, thousands of people, to be able to ICO. That's, if that's allowed, I don't know, regulatorily, what's going on, but it's happening, and if your blinders are old venture, you're still performing an okay service at a very high cost. So innovation is happening in our industry. I think a piece of it is crypto. A piece of it is just delivering a good service. I need to be more open with my network. I have to actually try to scale venture capital. I think the other piece that is pushing venture capital is actually Y Combinator. I don't think people in venture really understand how powerful Y Combinator is. They're pushing from one side, and then they have this growth fund that squeezes from the other, and then everyone in the middle is just being lazy. And so I think it's really important to do legwork and work with venture. There will always be brands in venture. That's just something that's probably going to happen. I shouldn't say always, but there will be brands in funding startups and funding ideas. There will always be sort of king leaders. But the way it's happening, if you're not thinking globally, everyone's going to lose. And so that's generally my answer. We've backed companies from 30 different countries. We're not blind to the fact that every single innovation that we're dealing with, is crypto, VR, jetpacks, whatever it is, global. Most of I think the number of investments also is 50-50. So it's outside of the US, inside the US. So how it's changing, I'm not going to pretend to predict what it looks like in 10 years. I'm hoping to be a part of that change that's happening. So in my lens, if you look through my brain, there are a lot of bright lights. There are a lot of flashy things going on. It's like a disco in there. But I believe the world is better if people build their ideas. And so the more money towards more people's ideas there is a better world. And so the trend of crypto is allowing that to be possible. So I'm excited about it. I think you do need to adapt as institutions. I think there's going to be a huge washout of the middle market of venture capitalists. But people come in and replace that. There's going to be some system that comes in, and it's going to be more digital. It's going to be more platform centric. It's going to be there's going to be. Venture capital could be we might be the next banks or something. I don't know. Well, I don't want that. So that's my answer. Long answer, short question.